Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another show. This is episode 8 of STX Weekly, and I'm flying solo today. Ben is off teaching. And actually, I had the idea of bringing on a guest to host with me, but unfortunately, I completely forgot to ask anyone until this morning. So, yeah, that didn't play out too well. Actually, I've got a pretty good show lined up. I think there's a bunch of fun stories that I would have loved to talk to Ben about. Um, but the man has disappeared. What do you want me to do? Anyway, so with that said, let's jump in to the first stories. First of all, hope everybody's had a good week. Our thoughts and prayers continue to go out to the families in the Ukraine and lots of backlash as they continue to see in the sports world. Roman Abramovich, we talked about it a bit last week, but the Chelsea story has broken more. Lots of developments in other sports as well. But the main story is this can't continue for too long, and we hope that it ends soon. Anyway, let's focus on the show for this week, which I've already said has quite a few good stories. In fact, so many stories that I should mention that the first story is not even one that I'm going to cover in much detail. Actually, have I got the right version? Yeah, I think that looks better. What about this one? No, not that one. This one is good. All right. Yeah. So the first story I'm not going to cover in much detail, but yeah, the Premier League announced that they actually have selected Consensus to be their NFT partner for this for their NFT offering that will launch pretty soon. Actually, Consensus was the one name that we didn't know too much about, but they won the bid. Apparently, the Premier League will separate the offering between video and image, and the video stuff might still go to Dapper Labs, it would seem. All right, but that is not really my top story. So let me actually get to my top story. We will start in the world of baseball. Actually, I should say my top story, my first story. For fans of the MLB, which I will concede that I am not, I don't watch a lot of baseball, followed it a bit in my life. But yeah, the collective bargaining agreement has finally come to an end, and we will get a full season of baseball. There'll be 162 games that will go out this year. But as part of it, there's been an interesting little detail that has been added, and it might not sound like a lot, but let's actually break the story down. So the ML, as part of the collective bargaining agreement, the players have said that their training data will not be used during, uh, cannot be sold, right? Data that any sort of biometric data that is gathered during training sessions cannot be sold by the MLB. Now, what would it be sold for potentially? Well, betting. That is the biggest thing. Yeah, that is the biggest application. As the story goes on to say that sports betting companies are increasingly looking for data of any sort that they can get their hands on, which they can monetize in some way. Now, let's be clear, the MLB still will push out data that is coming from games, right? The MLB was wearing the Whoop devices. Yeah, so there is all sorts of stats like the player's heart rate, and I mean the basic details of how long they've run and how much they've run and how fast they've run is all getting captured. But biometric data is what we're talking about, and that is already being pushed to broadcasters. That will continue to that will continue to happen, but their training data will not get pushed out. Now, the implication for this is, yeah, of course, the players don't want their training data to be used for any commercial purposes. They don't want it to go into contract negotiation. They don't want to get it pushed out to any third parties. But the biggest thing of betting is that now this CBA will likely last. Actually, I don't know what is the term of the CBA, but it's usually for a period of 4 to 5 years. So it's unlikely that this data will get pushed out for any time soon. Number one, this could also impact other collective bargaining agreements that keep coming up with the NBA and the NFL, and it could set a precedent for how player biometric data has been used. Players have been talking about how their data is used for commercial players purposes for a while, and it coming as clear parts of new agreements is an interesting move. All right, that is my first story. The second one, I'm actually going to be, well, this is an interesting one. All right, now bear with me. There is a lot of layers to this story, but the summary is that there was a dope. For any Zwifters out there, please drop a line in the chat. There was an interesting story doing the rounds about doping, or the possibility of doping on a Zwift bike race. And obviously, you know that these can be quite competitive and these almost at pro level. So there was a user who's been an avid Zwifter who blew the whistle effectively on a hack that he found, through which his times significantly improved on the Zwift platform. For sorry, anybody who doesn't know what Zwift is, I don't know why, but they're basically virtual bikes. Yeah, you should know about Zwift. Now we've talked about them a while. Yeah, they're virtual races that you can compete on a physical bike. So you're connected to hooked up to your TV, and you're pedaling away. Now, what this user had done, I've gone through a lot of forums and chats to try to get to the bottom of the story, but it keeps saying a very simple, effective, and undetectable Zwift weight doping cheat he found that gave him a huge advantage, right? Now, what I'll get to what that advantage was, but let's first talk about the story. Now, the reaction that Zwift had to this is the most interesting. What they did was the whistleblower found the hack, talked about it on a bunch of forums, actually their own Discord. He shared it. He's part of a team. Shared it with his team, and put it. They were like, "Oh, this is interesting." He put it on a wider forum, and he got a responses to say, "Hey, we've known about this for years, and in fact, it has been like highlighted to Zwift as well." The guy's name is Luciano Polastri. Yeah, and there's an association called ZADA, I think. Yeah, Zwift Accuracy and Data Analysis Group. That's what it's actually called. Have known of this cheat since at least January 2021, but have not yet provided a patch. And there are other messages in the chat forum to say that they've known of this cheat for up to 4 years before that. All right, and were informed of its existence years ago. Once this guy found out about this, that this has been around for a while, he put up a blog post, right? He created a WordPress site where he just gave the details of this powerful weight doping cheat. Zwift found him, obviously asked him to pull down the WordPress website, and then banned him from competing. And the guy, remember, he's found a hack that people have apparently been using for a while that Zwift knew about. He's decided to make it public because nobody's acting on it, and Zwift decided to ban him. And this did not go down well in the community. Like it, from all forums, it seems they have all come out in support of Luciano. It seems. In fact, I'll see if I can open that page. There is a tagline: "Free Luciano" is one of the trending hashtags on this story. But yeah, basically, it goes on to talk about that Zwift has known about this for a while. They found this user, or he highlighted it, looking for a way to get them to stop doing or to correct the issue. But they did nothing about it, banned him instead. They shadow banned him, means that he can ride his Zwift bike, but basically not compete in any races, etc. Now, like I said, I think their approach to it is wrong. They could have not thanked him, but at least like said, hey, maybe you shouldn't have gone and made it public in the way that you did, but at least it's out there now, and we'll try to find a solution to it. The most interesting one is, it took me a while to find it. All he did, it seems, was that while he's riding his bike, so at the start of any Zwift competition, you have to give some basic data about yourself, your height and weight, and that is because it apparently impacts how the weight of the rider impacts the speed at which you travel, and if your speed relates to your time, so you go faster or slower based on the weight that you input. And this weight, especially in the pro events, Zwift regulates very strictly, right? There is some controls that they have on this. But what this guy realized is that all those controls are before the event. Once you're actually have started riding, during the event, if you go to your settings and change your weight, you become faster. As long as you don't, you have to change it back to the original weight at the time you finish. So during the race, you can change your weight and just be faster in the race, which is a really weird hack. Apparently, known to the community, the guy didn't even do it in a race. He did it in a personal trial, said it completely worked, and then notified Zwift, and they still banned him. Yeah, Zwift not good form. This is a story that's an interesting way of tech hacks. Not really tech hacks, no, you just change settings. But yeah, I found this story quite amusing. All right, that is story number 2. Let's go to number 3 for today. Yes, that's the lovely face of Iker Casillas and an interestingly attired dude. Wayra SportBoost. I will not use this opportunity to flaunt my Spanish. I will instead go to the English version, which is also quite entertaining. Wayra over the pass, SportBoost takes the shot, and Sports Tech scores. Dan Taylor, you now have one more fan. But so Wayra, who is the accelerator program from Telefonica, have combined with SportBoost, which is a startup accelerator or startup incubator launched by Iker Casillas. Yeah, you see him with the guy in the interesting outfit right next to him, who is the head of, I believe, tech. Not CTO, but I think head of tech and innovation or something like that at Wayra. Yeah, so they have a sports-related startup incubator. It'll be based out of Madrid. They are targeting, of course, as with any new accelerator program, a lot of trending topics. The metaverse, the first word that they talk about. In fact, I watched bits of the press conference or the press release that they had. They did a small event, and there was a lot of talk of the metaverse. Anybody who's for Spanish speakers, you can go check it out. Of course, this is the official press release in Spanish, which you can look for as well. But yeah, the story is simple. They're offering tickets up to 700,000, so not a small amount. So either 350K from each of the two partners, SportBoost and Wayra, or even 350K just by one of them. It's by Iker Casillas, and yeah, thanks to collaboration, we'll find the best startups, so on and so forth. Yeah, the last most interesting thing is that the applications are now open. You can submit your proposal until the 20th of April. Kema Alonso. Yeah, that's the name of the guy. Telefonica's Chief Digital Officer. Kema Alonso. All right, but yeah, it's I'm always partial. If there's another reason to go to Spain, I'll take it, especially Madrid. Love that city. So yeah, another cool accelerator to come out of there. We're actually going to feature SportBoost and this accelerator in our upcoming European Sports Tech report. So check that out. And also we'll likely soon have the head of the accelerator on our podcast. All right. Moving along nicely here, we go to story number 3. Sorry, we're already on story number 2. My second to my lead into my top story. All right, there's a reason we're starting with a Hollywood reporter, is because we're kind of in Hollywood right now, which is where HBO is most known for. That and of course Game of Thrones, but we won't be watching that. You could be watching that. People who haven't watched Game of Thrones, go watch Game of Thrones. It's pretty good. Yeah, but for others, the famous HBO sign will come up likely before some live sports. Now, this expansion of streaming in sports is getting bigger and bigger. Last week, our top story was Apple getting involved. They bought the rights to NFL games. They're likely to get into, the MLB was on Apple TV. NFL would likely follow, and maybe more after that. But with HBO Max, they've started with the US men's and women's national teams. This will start in 2023. So obviously the present World Cup is not going to be included, but I'm assuming that they will have some post World Cup tournament and content from men's soccer and women's soccer on HBO Max. Yeah, so they will air 20 games annually. Those they'll stream on HBO Max and on TV, of course. Though I can imagine most people will be streaming this. They will develop more content like ESPN's Manning Cast, which is, I don't know if you've checked it out, I've seen it a bit. It's basically the Manning brothers commentating as they watch a live NFL game. It's quite entertaining. But yeah, this is a big step for Turner Sports and Warner Media. They've talked a lot about how they were clear that with Turner Sports, they wanted to get, or with Warner Media actually, who owns HBO Max, they wanted to get sports onto HBO. This has been in the works for a while. All right. Now, what does this mean? So this is the 7-year deal. Yeah, correct. This is the NHL one, which is not yet live. What they're likely to follow up though with is NBA games, right? This will also come onto HBO Max. So this could happen after the 2024-25 season. We already know that the NBA, you're probably going to get some games on Apple TV. I mean, the NBA Game Pass is already what it is. I mean, that's so widely used. But they're also pushing out so many other streaming platforms. Yeah, I think there's no question that Warner Media is definitely interested in being part of that bid. Yeah, this is the 8-year, $200 million deal to stream the US soccer. And with HBO Max, we want to put live sports there. Just getting everybody, basically anybody and everybody who's got a streaming platform to speak of wants to get into live sports. It's getting crazy, right? You know, Amazon has invested so much in it. You know, Facebook has taken sports streaming rights in different parts of the world. Apple has become a big player in this space now. There have been rumors for a while that Netflix will jump in to starting with F1. They stayed off those rumors. They're not interested. But yeah, I think. Sorry, I'm just looking at. There's a chat. There's a message that's come to me in the chat, which is from Pedro Moutinho Vieira. He's from Portugal, it seems, but the message is in Chinese. Pedro, sorry, man, you'll have to translate that for me, or if it's an insult, don't translate it. No, I mean, I don't know why it's coming Chinese to me. It looks like Chinese to me. But anyway, so I'll ignore that chat. Coming back to the story, yeah, we've talked a lot about a lot of the big tech giants getting into sports streaming. This is becoming important for them, and now we're moving out of tech giants. We're getting into traditional broadcasters, bringing sports onto their other platforms as a crossover to attract new audiences. I think that's the crux of this story. All right. With that done, I'm going to finish with my final story, which is the most exciting. Yeah. I mean, come on. First of all, I'm going to start with F1 is back. This talks about a former F1 driver, Bruno Senna. But F1 is back this weekend, guys. I cannot wait. So excited. Bahrain testing has been super fun to keep track of. Ferrari's showing really good speed this year. Mercedes not looking the best, but Mercedes seems to do this every year. Okay, I'm going to take a minute to talk about F1. Mercedes seems to do this every year. They're sandbagging a bit, etc. Red Bull looks really strong. It's going to make for a super exciting weekend of racing. Can't wait for it. But while that is happening, I believe you're going to see flying car racing. An electric flying car series called Airspeeder just made an announcement that they added an F1 former F1 driver, so added more legitimacy to their series. Um, and this is going to go live. Flying cars in 2023. Pilots will demand flying cars up to 125 miles per hour. It's pretty quick. We had talked about this before, how Paris Olympics, I think this is about December last year, that we our lead story of the day at that, and I think somewhere around the end of December, was that Paris Olympics are planning to offer flying taxis to shuttle at the games. We said then maybe it's a bit early, maybe it's a bit this gimmicky. Is this going to be real? Oh, it looks real. If you look at the website, which is what I'm looking at right now, so Speeder, the world's first racing series for manned flying electric cars. Let that be clear. You're going to put actual human beings in flying vehicles and they're going to be racing. This is a thing, right? Yeah, these cars look insane. So I should say that this is part of the offering from the EXA series, which is here, which is a combination of machine and human. Of course, it's all racing in machine and human, but here these are full, let's say, full flying cars, but the pilots are racing remotely. So the pilot is not actually in the cockpit. You'll see her, I think, in one of the videos. Yeah, I'll try and play this one. Yeah, after they do all the standard cool shots. But you'll see her basically operating or racing from a similarly sized hull that is on the ground. There you go from that shot. She's on the ground in a similarly sized vehicle. The actual flying vehicle is in the air, buzzing around. So she's operating it from land. Still looks very cool. The race courses. This has been going on for 2 years apparently, but I haven't seen any news of this. So they say they launched into 2021, but I think they've still been testing for that time. It hasn't officially gone live. I'm not sure. A speeder, though, this will actually be somebody in that cockpit flying. Yeah, it sounds incredible. Flying cars are here. Yeah, the future is now. We don't need roads. I mean, this is some really cool. They talk about the story of Bruno Senna joining air speeders. Yeah, so they're still, of course, developing the offering. It's likely to go live next year. The Mark IV. Yeah, looks cool, doesn't it? I want to show you, there were some better shots of the vehicle itself. That one, yeah. This is the race series. Futures now. The Formula One of the skies. Yeah, that's a great line. Electronically governed tracks will plot a course across the sea ocean, so they might go through all sorts of regions. I was wondering, I mean, there are so many things that you could talk about. Yeah, these are the vehicles. Oh my God. I mean, they could be flying over the Arctic. This is the thing. Since the limitations are not coming from, let's say, the surface, or the track is not providing the complication. It's the weather conditions, at the atmospheric pressure, temperature, etc., or how they fly through. Can you imagine having a course where you're flying through the Grand Canyon? And geez, this just sounds mad exotic and mad interesting. I would love to fly one. I don't know if that's going to be possible. Guys, anybody from the Airspeeder team, I'm going to reach out and see if we can get some of these guys in, but get them onto our podcast or in any of our content. But yeah, I mean, this is like from Dune, from Blade Runner, from all of that stuff. This is real sci-fi, which is here, and this is going to be a racing series, which will come to us in 2023. It will seem the Formula One of racing. The future is now. Airspeeder, guys, check it out. All right, that is my show. It would seem. I hope I didn't. Well, actually, I don't know if you've lost Pedro Martinez. No, anybody who knows speaks Chinese who can translate this message for me. Yeah, otherwise reach out to me later. But yeah, that's our show, guys. That was fun. Lots of interesting stories for me to go through. I'm especially excited about airspeeder and those challenges, but also all about yeah, how the collective bargaining agreement goes with the MLB, more streaming coming onto more streaming platforms launching live sports. We're actually going to cover that in detail in our North American report near the accelerator. Yeah, pretty good week in sports tech. All right, guys, that's a wrap from me. I will see you next week, either flying solo or with Ben. We'll decide then. Ciao.